Hello everyone, welcome to How to Do It. In this video, we'll see what is useState and how to use it in React. So, in the last video, we used props to generate these cards. Now, let's say we want to have a read counter. That means whenever we click on this continue reading button, a counter should increment right here. So, how can we do that? So now, let's go to our code. And here you can see that the small cards contains the actual code for the cards. Now here we have the continue reading button. Now what we have to do is we'll have to store the count somewhere, right? So what I'll do is I'll just add a p tag and set a count here. Let count equals to 0, and then I'll just show count here. Now on click of this continue reading, we should increment this, right? So what I'll do is I'll just add in a on click handler. I'll just add in a on click handler and pass in a function that is increment count. Okay, now here you can notice that I haven't added in parentheses like this. If I add this parenthesis, it will automatically execute when we start the application, but we only want it to get executed when we click on this continue reading. So I'll just add in a reference and then I'll move up and just type in an arrow function to just increase the count, right? So now you can see we have an increment count function and it should start counting from 0. Now if I save and go back to our browser, so once I click on continue reading, the page refreshes. So why is that? We have already added a href here, right? So that is the reason on click of this a tag, it's redirecting the page. So how can we fix that? Now what we'll do is we'll just go to increment count, and here we'll get an event which we can do is e.prevent default. Now if I save and check, now nothing is happening, right? The count is not upgraded nor the page refreshes. So what's the issue here? Now if I just go back and check if the count is actually updated or not and save this console log and go back and check our console. Here if I click on continue reading, here you can see the count is getting updated, but it is not reflected here. So why is this happening? So the reason for this lies in the way React handles the DOM. React doesn't know that the variable that is count is updated, so that's why it doesn't render it. So to make React know that the count variable is updated, we use useState. So now how do we use useState? First thing is that we'll have to import useState from React, just like this. Now what we'll have to do is we'll just delete this and type in const and a square bracket, and then we'll type in count and a set count equals to useState and 0. So what this means is that this useState returns a tuple that is the variable and the function that can be used to set the value for this function. Now here in the useState, we provide in the initial value for this count variable, we have set it to 0 by default. Now what we'll have to do here is to change the count variable. Instead of just incrementing the count, what we'll do is you have to use this set count function just here and update the count. Now it won't work like this because we cannot update a constant, right? So what we'll do is we'll just declare a new variable, let's say new count equals to count plus 1, right? And then we'll set this new count here and just delete this. Yes, now if I save and go back, here we can see the count is 0, and if I press continue reading, it will increase to 1. Now here if we notice that the count for both the cards have been changed when we click on the first one. So what is the problem here and how can we fix this? So for fixing this, let's go back to our code. So what we can see here is the count variable is inside of the loop, and as many times the loop runs, the card is rendered and the same count is used for all the cards. So that's why we are getting this issue here. So how can we fix this? So to fix this issue, we'll have to make this count an object. Now there are many ways of doing this, but I'll use this method as I feel comfortable with this. So I'll just make this an object, right? Now what we'll have to do is here in the increment count, we'll have to pass in the index of this card, like whichever card that we want to update. Now how do we do that? If we just put in parentheses here, we can pass in the value, right? But just sometimes back I told you that we cannot do this since it will invoke the function as soon as the render will happen. So to tackle this, we'll have to just add in one parenthesis here and then an arrow like this, and just type in E. E means the event trigger. Like when the onClick event is triggered, the event is stored in this E variable. Now we'll have to pass in this E here, and then as a second parameter we can pass in I as the index. Now what this will do is it will not call the function until we click on this continue reading anchor tag. Now we'll have to change the increment count function as well. So we'll go back and here we'll receive the I, that is index. Now how will we update this set count? Now what we'll do is we'll just set it as an empty object, then spread the previous values like this. If you don't know this, like this is a spread operator. That means it copies the previous value of the count. Now what I'll do is I'll just take the index and put its value as the new count. Also we'll have to update this value like this. Now what is happening here is that the count is an object, so inside of that object I just added the I variable here, right? So what will happen is the count I will be taken into new count and added a value of +1 so that it will increment the value. Now let me save and check if it is working or not. If I go back, we can see here we have error, right? Now why is this happening? Now if you see, we don't have any value right now for the count, right? So what we'll have to do is, if we don't have a new count, so this is empty, right? So we don't have this value, that is count I. So what we'll do is we'll default this to 0 if we don't have any value. Okay, and here we can see that we only have count here, so we also need that I here, and if we don't have that I, we'll default this to 0 as well. Now if I save and go back and refresh, we can see we don't have any errors. Now if I just click on continue reading, you can see the count has been updated and here it is not updated. Now if I click on this continue reading, here it is updated, and similarly it's working fine now. So this was the use of useState in React. Hope you like this video. In the next video we'll be learning what is useEffect and how to use it in React. So stay tuned, subscribe to this channel and hit the bell icon to not miss an update. I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.